"Sir, that's enough." The words left Ava Brooks' mouth before she could take them back, cutting clean through the low hum of the diner like a blade through still water. For a second, no one moved. Not the couple in the corner booth, not the cook behind the pass window, not even the man she had just spoken to. The overhead lights flickered faintly against the polished floor, reflecting shards of something broken. Not glass, just tension, sharp and scattered. Ava stood frozen with a metal tray in her hand, the weight of it suddenly too real, too heavy. Her pulse thudded in her ears, each beat louder than the last, as if her own body was warning her she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The man turned slowly, expensive coat draped perfectly over his shoulders, the kind of man who didn't wait in lines and didn't get told no. Marcus Hale. Everyone knew his name, even if they pretended not to. His eyes landed on her, calm but cold, like he was deciding whether she mattered at all. "You talking to me?" he asked, voice low, controlled, more dangerous for how quiet it was. Ava swallowed, her fingers tightening around the tray until the metal pressed into her palm. She could smell coffee in the air, burnt and bitter, mixed with the faint lemon scent of the cleaner she had used an hour ago. Normal things. Safe things. But nothing felt safe now. She glanced briefly at the man behind Marcus. The stranger, his shirt wrinkled, his posture unsteady, like he had been trying to disappear before she stepped in. Their eyes met for half a second. There was something there. Not fear exactly. Something closer to exhaustion. Ava looked back at Marcus. "He didn't do anything," she said, quieter this time, but steady. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Somewhere behind her, a fork clinked against a plate, too loud in the stillness. Marcus let out a short breath through his nose, almost amused. "And you think that's your concern?" he asked. Ava didn't answer right away. Her mind flickered. Rent due in 4 days. Her mom's prescription sitting unfilled on the kitchen counter. The double shifts she had begged for just to keep up. This job wasn't optional. It was everything holding her life together by a thread. She knew exactly what this moment could cost her. She felt it in the tightness of her chest, the dryness in her throat. Still, she didn't move. "It is when it happens here," she said finally. Marcus studied her, really studied her now, like she had shifted from invisible to inconvenient. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, not a smile, not kindness, just recognition of a problem. "You work here," he said, almost casually. "You might want to remember that." The words landed heavier than any shout. Ava felt them settle in her stomach, cold and certain. Around them, the diner stayed frozen, every eye pretending not to watch. The clock above the register ticked once, then again, each second stretching longer than it should. Ava's grip loosened just enough for the tray to tilt, catching the light, reflecting her own face back at her. Tired, scared, but still there. Still standing. And for reasons she couldn't fully explain, she didn't step back. Marcus did not raise his voice again, and somehow that made everything feel tighter, like the air had nowhere to go. He adjusted the cuff of his sleeve with slow precision, eyes still on Ava as if he had already made a decision she had not heard yet. "Finish your shift," he said at last, turning away as though she had already been dealt with, as though consequences were simply scheduled, not spoken. The stranger remained where he was for a second longer, shoulders slightly slumped, as if he was unsure whether to follow or disappear. Ava exhaled without realizing she had been holding her breath. The tray in her hands felt lighter now, but her chest did not. She stepped back behind the counter, the familiar scrape of her shoes against the tile grounding her just enough to keep moving. "Coffee refills. Orders up. Table 6 needs the check." The routine returned, but it felt thinner, like a script she was reading from instead of living. A few minutes later, the bell above the door chimed softly. Ava looked up. The stranger was leaving. For a brief moment, he paused by the entrance and glanced back at her. Not a smile, not even a nod, just a quiet acknowledgement, like he understood what that moment had cost her even if no one else did. Then he pushed the door open and stepped into the night, rain already tapping against the glass behind him. Ava turned back to the register, but her hands were not as steady as before. The receipt paper curled slightly at the edge, catching the dim light. "Office. Now." The manager's voice came low and sharp from behind her. Ava closed her eyes for half a second before turning. Mr. Jenkins stood with his arms crossed, his tie slightly loosened but his expression tight, controlled. He did not need to raise his voice. The message was already clear. She followed him down the narrow hallway, past the supply closet that smelled faintly of bleach and damp cloth, past the hum of the soda machine, until they reached the small office at the back. The door clicked shut behind them, and the noise of the diner faded into a distant blur. Mr. Jenkins did not sit. He stayed standing, pacing once, then stopping in front of her. "Do you have any idea who that was?" he asked. Ava kept her hands folded in front of her, fingers interlaced to keep them from shaking. "Yes," she said quietly. "Then you also know what you just did," he replied. Ava did not answer right away. The fluorescent light above them buzzed faintly, casting a pale glow across the cramped room. There was a calendar on the wall, still flipped to last month. Time felt stuck here, even if everything else was moving too fast. "I stopped something that should not have been happening," she said finally. Mr. Jenkins let out a breath that was almost a laugh, but without humor. "You made a scene," he corrected, "with someone who brings in more money in one night than this place sees in a week." The words landed hard, practical, impossible to argue with. Ava felt them settle, but they did not change anything inside her. "He was not wrong to be there," she said. "And you were not wrong to stay out of it," he shot back immediately. Silence followed, heavy and unmoving. Ava's mind flickered again to the same things, always the same things. Rent, bills, her mother's quiet voice asking if everything was okay. She could almost hear it now. "I need this job," she said, not as a plea, just a fact. Mr. Jenkins studied her for a long moment, his expression shifting slightly, not softer, but more measured. "Then you should have thought about that before you opened your mouth," he said. Another pause. Head back against the seat, closing her eyes for a moment. "Yeah, long night." Another pause, the kind filled with things unsaid. "Did you eat?" her mother asked. Ava let out a small breath that almost turned into a laugh. "I grabbed something." It was not a lie, but it was not the truth either. She had been too busy replaying everything in her head to feel hungry. "Good," her mother said quietly. "Do not forget to take care of yourself too." The words landed gently, but they stayed. Ava swallowed, staring at the windshield as the rain blurred the world beyond it into soft, indistinct shapes. "I will," she said. When the call ended, the silence returned, heavier this time. Ava reached into her bag and pulled out the folded envelope she had been carrying for days. The paper was slightly worn at the edges, the bold print across the front impossible to ignore. Final notice. She stared at it for a long moment, her thumb tracing the edge without opening it. She already knew what it said. Past due. Urgent. Immediate attention required. Words that did not care about context or kindness or doing the right thing. Words that demanded answers in numbers, not intentions. Her grip tightened slightly, then loosened. Slowly, she placed the envelope back into her bag and zipped it closed. The decision not to look felt small, but it was not. It was a delay, a breath, a moment before something inevitable. Ava finally turned the key in the ignition. The engine coughed once, then settled into a low hum. The headlights cut through the rain in two narrow beams, illuminating just enough of the road ahead to move forward, but not enough to see what was coming next. As she pulled out of the lot, she glanced once in the rearview mirror. The diner glowed behind her, warm and distant, like a place she had already left behind even if it had not let go of her yet. Somewhere between the rhythm of the wipers and the steady hum of the engine, a thought settled in, quiet but unshakable. Tomorrow was not going to be simple, and whatever waited for her on the other side of it was already beginning to take shape. Morning came too quickly, pale light slipping through the thin curtains of Ava's apartment and settling across the worn wooden